Alright, so we're going to film a new video this week, or today, on setting up the household planner. And I'm filming on my brand new computer that I'm so excited about. And I'm also filming in the front room, which is a slightly different location, so, but bear with me. So I'm filming with the camera backwards. Anyway, so it's almost the end of the year, and it's time to set up the planner for next year. And I kind of wanted to talk about like how I set up the planner and also how the planner has kind of evolved for me, in the last few months. So this is the current planner for 2022, and it's almost time for next year. And so I buy a new planner for the new year. So this is the planner for 2023. I buy it early enough, like I like to buy at the end of October, beginning of November, so that I can spend some time going back through, because I don't just go back through the previous year or the current year we're on. I actually go back even one more year. And what I like to do is I like to go through first, the most current year. So I like to start with 2022. But I also like to go back through 2021 just to kind of make sure, am I getting everything? Are there any big things that I need to think about or include? Were there any maintenance projects or household things that we did in 2021 that we either didn't need to do in 2022 or that we didn't get to in 2022? Just kind of like doing a checkup for the next year and making sure we're on track with things. So this is the new one for this year. And these are, I have a list. I made a list. Oh, that's a backwards list. These are my list of items. And I think what I'll end up doing is I'll actually end up typing them. And so there'll be some little text when I edit my video. But the first thing I do is I go through and I put in birthdays. Then I put in like special dates, and those are things like anniversaries or remembrance days, things like that. I also am very much aware of financial stuff, so I put in financial deadlines. Like I put in the tax deadlines, I put in paydays. I also keep track of like expiration dates on like credit cards, because this year all of our credit cards and our debit cards all expired in the same month. Which was a little tricky this time around. And then I put in household tasks, and these are the big ones. These are things like when we clean the gutters on the roof. Like leaf cleaning is a big deal. It takes a whole day to do. And we tend to do it around the same time of year, and so I like to make sure that it gets into the planner, so that way I'm like, okay, this is what's coming up. And then I put in the important work dates. I am a teacher, so there are some important work dates, like, when school starts, when school ends, winter and spring break. I don't put a ton other work-related stuff into this. Those are just really the big ones. And because I like a lot of things coming out, I also put in release dates. So like if there's a movie that we're really looking forward to, if there's a book I'm really looking forward to, if there's a release date for a video game, like I'm really excited for Fatal Frame 4 coming out, and they don't have an actual release date yet, but when I get a release date, I will put it in the calendar. And I have a slight obsession with Funko Pops, so there are some Funko Pops that I do put their release dates in for, because I'm a weirdo, which is totally fine. Like my collection of Funko Pops has gotten really big. So those are the dates I put into my planner. And actually, one thing I do is I actually go back through the previous year and I check to make sure, like, are there any new birthdays? Because I had my new niece born earlier this year. I had a cousin who had a baby this year, and we also had a friend who got married. And so now it's, okay, well, I got his birthday, but now I need his wife's birthday. So, keeping, like, track of all those things. And I'll actually talk a little bit more about how I keep track in a second. How I use my planner. So the planner has kind of evolved over the last few weeks, last few months. I keep track of my bills. We talked about that in one of my previous videos. When I get a bill, I write it in the planner. I put it in the planner. But I'm also been using it lately to keep track of spending. So like when I go to the grocery store, which if any of you have done that recently, oh my gosh, that hurts. When I get home from the grocery store, I write down how much I spent at the grocery store. I have tried doing the budget tracking before where you like write everything down on a piece of paper. It doesn't work for me, but writing it in my planner has actually been very helpful and has allowed me to keep better track of how much I'm spending. I use it to keep track of household tasks, like when we're, like big laundry days, big vacuuming days, like the big cleaning days that, happen around the house. What does that one say? Stopping, what does that say? I can't read. Oh, shopping dates. Oh yeah, that's right. So because I live out kind of in the woods and the nearest grocery store that I like is 28 minutes away, I do plan out my grocery shopping trips. Like, I shop every 2 weeks. I put them in my thing. I also keep track of recycling dates because our recycling gets picked up every 2 weeks. And so I pencil those into the planner too. And the other thing that we've been using it for lately is keeping track of medical things. I suffer from chronic migraines, and while I'm pretty good about knowing, like, okay, these are the circumstances that are going to lead up to it, I still need to track them for other reasons, and so I've been using my planner to track those. And it's kind of become an informal diary journal kind of a thing. Now, I'm not like writing huge long paragraphs about things that are going on, but like we've had a kind of a kerfuffle at work recently, and I wrote a little bit about the kerfuffle. Not a lot about the kerfuffle, but a little bit about the kerfuffle. And just to kind of like be aware of that, because sometimes it's like I don't really remember what was going on, but I know there was angst. And so I've been using my planner to kind of like look at that and be like, oh, that's what's been going on. The other thing I totally didn't write down. I'll write it down now. Tracking events. And it's horrible handwriting. So, obviously the Queen of England passed away recently. I wrote that down in here. I know it has no personal effect on me whatsoever, but, it was kind of like a big, tremendous event in world history. And I was like, we should probably write that down. The other thing I've been using my planner for, and I can't actually open it up and show you because there's a lot of personal information on it. But birth announcements. When I get birth announcements, I tape them into the planner on the date that the child was born. And I found that very helpful because then it's like, oh, I have their birth announcement, I have their information, I have their full name, I have their birthday, and I also have kind of an idea of like what size they were when they were born. So, if I'm making anything baby related, I kind of have like a better idea of what's going on. So that is kind of how this all works. So kind of want to talk about this one. This one is fresh and new and there's nothing in it yet and I'm so excited. I did take out, there's like this one title page and it's like, put your personal information. I was like, yeah, rip. I don't like that one. I do actually put into here, and I haven't done it yet, and I won't do it on camera. I do write down our house phone number and our house address, and it sounds really silly, but there are times when I have to relay house information like phone number and house address, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what it is. And so I just put them in here and then just open it up and read it out. I don't know. I've had so many concussions in my life, and I have horrible memory, and I always get freaked out that I'm going to forget something. So I just write my phone number and my house address in here, and so I have it. Okay. I'm gonna open it up. So this is the month by month. This is for January. And so, I'd write like when I go back to school, I'd write any birthdays down. Here on the side are the big notes page, like if there's any like big household tasks or anything, this is where I would be writing it. You can find these planners on Amazon. They're like $23. They're not that expensive, and they're hardback. They're very nice, and they're big. Shh, you're fine. Sorry, I knocked on the planner and my dog thought someone was knocking on the door. They got a lot of space, and I really like them. So what I would tend to do is I would open the planner up to January 1st, and then I would get last year's planner out. I would open it up to January 1st, and I would just go page by page. and I would look for birthdays, special events, anything that needed to get moved over from last year into the new year. Depending on what work-related information is in here, I might transfer that over. Our conference dates is one I would actually transfer over, except our conference dates have changed every year for the last 4 years. So at this point, conferences are in October, so we'll just go with that. But just really kind of like transferring over from here to there. When I get finished with going through 2022, I will go back and go through 2021. I know, I want to say in 2021, we had the chimney sweep come out, I think. And if it's in here, I'll be like, oh, it's time for the chimney sweep to come back because it is now 2023. It's been 2 years. So that's kind of why I go back through not only the current year we're in, but also the previous year from that, just because there are some household tasks that only need to be done like every other year. So yeah, here's that. So then when I finish going through and putting in, you know, birthdays and special events and work-related things, and other things like that, I would also go and find, where's June? I need to look this up because I haven't looked it up yet. In June, there's a big, huge event. It's called Fiber Fusion. It's a huge fiber festival up here in the Pacific Northwest. It's fantastic. It's where I buy all my yarn and my fiber, and hopefully this year a new spinning wheel. So I would put that date in here because I start saving up for it way in advance, because it's like my Christmas, and it's in June. It's fantastic. So I'd put that in here, and then I'd, you know, just continue on. And one of the other things I did this year, which I had so much fun with, was I went through and I put like random stickers into my planner. You know, things like, I couldn't find them today. I think I must have left them in my desk at school. They were like self-care and relax and, you know, just like fun stickers. These were my stickers that were released specifically during COVID, and it was all about being virtual and, you know, being peaceful and kind and virtual hugs and stuff. And I actually will put these through here too when I start going through my planner. But yeah, so that's kind of setting up, tracking. Let me look at my list again, make sure there's nothing else I need. Tracking bills. We've talked about tracking bills. We've talked about household tasks, cleaning reminders. Yeah. So I feel like that's pretty much it. I plan to make another video in the next couple of weeks because that's the other thing. That's the other thing I remembered now. So as I'm going through the 2022 book, I'm going to be looking at things like my bills and bill history, and then I will sit down and go through this and my budget sheet from the year and look and see, okay, what budget things do I need to fix moving forward? And I'm actually going to be doing that probably in November because I have a new teaching contract, and so my pay is going to be changing again, and stuff, and other things are going on, and I'll talk about that in the other video. But that is one thing I do when I go through both of these books at the same time, is I kind of also look at what budget things have changed, because I've always written down my bills, but now this next year I'm going to be writing down my grocery stuff more regularly, and so I kind of want to track, like, are there certain months that I spend more on groceries? Is it certain times of the year I spend more on groceries? I mean, I know I spend a lot of money on groceries at Christmas time because I do Christmas baking. So yeah. But yeah, that's setting up the planner, and I'm going to be doing that on my own in the next few days, and that'll be really fun for me because I really like setting up my planner for the next year. And thank you. And in a few weeks, I will do my budget video, probably around Thanksgiving break, because I won't be at school and I will have a life for like 3 days. All right, thank you.